Hey again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Keeping Up with E-commerce, brought to you by our friends at SAP Commerce. My name is Dan Gingiss. I'm a customer experience speaker, coach, author, and podcaster, also your host for this show. And I'm super excited to bring you yet another topic in e-commerce that is so important for us to be talking about. Today, we're going to be discussing sustainability. Now, when we think of technology and e-commerce, we might think of sustainability as perhaps being in conflict with our desires to make a profit. But in fact, we believe that sustainability can go hand in hand with profitability. And we've brought a couple of experts here today to tell us all about it and help us learn. First, we have Sven Rittau live from Munich, Germany. He is the founder and CEO of K5 and passionate about entrepreneurship, e-commerce, and networks. He's built a brand as an e-commerce advisor and entrepreneur. Welcome to the show, Sven.
Thanks for having me, Dan. Great to be here. Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about K5 for those who aren't familiar with it.
Well, basically, that's. I mean, it started off as a small pet project, just because we wanted to gather people from the industry in a German-speaking area in Europe to learn from each other, and this turned into a little business with 4,000 or 5,000 people coming together each year, which could not happen and take place, of course, over the last 2 years. And so the idea is to learn from each other and to become better businesswomen and businessmen, and to run your business more profitable or more smarter or whatever you want to do it. And that's what K5 is all about. And now we turned digital, and so I'm happy to be here to share my insights over the last 22 years of e-commerce experience.
I love it. I always find such great inspiration at talking with people in lots of different industries. I always tell my clients, if you're a bank, the last place you should look for inspiration is other banks. You should be talking to people in all sorts of industries to learn and be inspired. So that's great stuff. I also want to welcome to the show Krupa Singampally. She is in Palo Alto, California. She is a senior director of product marketing for SAP Commerce Cloud and has global experience in a variety of product strategy and go-to leadership positions. Welcome to the show, Krupa.
Thank you, Dan. Looking forward to it. Super excited.
And give us a little sense of what your role is at SAP.
So at SAP currently, I'm in the product marketing organization for Commerce Cloud, focusing on B2B and B2C. But I've actually spent quite a bit of time in SAP and outside of SAP in e-commerce in a variety of roles. I was a product manager where I built products for retailers. So and I worked for a retailer. So I've kind of looked at it from both sides on what do they need and actually going and using it myself. So in that role, I'm actually able to talk to our customers and really figure out what value SAP Commerce Cloud brings to their business and how we can help them grow.
Awesome. Well, I mentioned in the intro that we only cover important topics to e-commerce leaders here. Tell us why you think sustainability is such an important topic.
I mean, it's top of the mind for everybody, right? I mean, as you said it, right? Is this something that we could profitably have a business around? And especially with what happened with the COVID pandemic and the global disruption that e-commerce market experienced, right? And the rise of the new consumers, right, the millennials and the Gen Zs, this generation takes these type of topics and concepts very, very seriously. They grew up in those ethos and the whole social justice revolution and conversations that happened over the past year means this is a topic, the sustainability, ethical business practices, and how do you address your business practices, your employees, your entire circular economy from sourcing to disposal. The new generation of consumers are very passionate about this topic, and it behooves brands and businesses to think about this.
Well, certainly, because if they're not thinking about it, their competitors probably are. So Sven, that description, which was great, it sounds expensive to me. Can you talk a little bit about how we keep costs in line so that being sustainable doesn't end up losing us money?
Well, I think if you really want to integrate it into your business, you have to understand that this is also not only like a cost perspective, but also a market potential perspective to it. For me, from a revenue point of view. So actually, to build in sustainability or elements of like circular economy into your value chain opens up huge opportunities also to differentiate your business towards the customer. So of course there is a cost side to it, and especially when you try to also to really do the math and actually to actually generate the data for it. Because I mean, when a friend of mine started a business where you actually can neutralize your carbon footprint throughout the whole value chain, and so there's a huge immensely cost involved into this to actually get the data first, and then from there you can start to act on it. But what we've seen over the last years is that it's a huge opportunity to differentiate your business. And for instance, to not only understand your as a retailer to selling products, but also to offer a new service to the customer. Say like, okay, you have a wardrobe at home, and I know what's in your closet. So if you want to free some cash, why don't you send me back your, whatever, your dresses from the last 4 years? I actually try to market them, give you the cash that you can spend on my platform again. So that's a completely new mindset to understand that, offering a whole service around this wrapped up in sustainable elements can generate a completely new business setup for you.
I love that it's sort of sustainable in both senses of the word, right? Good for the planet, but also a sustainable business model, which makes so much sense. So, Krupa, I think you guys are agreeing with each other, but I want to focus in on something. You talked about sustainability as really being almost an ethical consideration, something that we really have to do today, whereas Sven is saying it's a competitive differentiator. So how do we balance both of those out? Should everybody be doing it? And then if then that is true, do we lose the competitive advantage portion?
I think it's interesting how sometimes it is not a all or a nothing, right? It can very well be something that you work in conjunction with your ethos. I mean, if you think about a big company like a Walmart, right? I mean, that's not somebody that you would immediately associate with sustainability practices or some things like that. But if you just talking a little bit about what Sven mentioned about this whole what we call re-commerce topic, it's actually become quite an interesting opportunity for multiple brands and retailers, even the ones that you don't typically think of as sustainability. It's kind of like how at the beginning of the e-commerce revolution, people were thinking, oh, what if I actually opened up my online channel? Is that gonna affect my in-store? I mean, I was actually at a retailer like that where there was a big conflict between the in-store versus the online on cannibalization and concerns like that. But Walmart has actually partnered with one of the actually they've actually partnered to do this ThredUp. They've partnered with ThredUp to actually bring in this sustainable concept onto their own platform. So it is not an all or nothing. You can still keep your profits and your differentiation, which in the case of Walmart, they have this whole endless aisle and the low prices model and the fast delivery, all of those, but they can still be part of this re-economy or circular commerce. So I don't think it's an this or that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, and great example there with Walmart. Sven, I can't help but notice that there's a lot of new companies that are being launched almost as, we'll call them sustainable natives, that the sustainability aspect is actually built into their business model. I mean, here in the States, anybody that watches the show Shark Tank, we see that the sharks love companies that have some sort of sustainability or give back or good to the earth type issue built into their model. Can you talk about maybe that transition, whereas you've got some companies that didn't start that way and have to adapt, but now you've got a whole influx of companies where it's just natively built in?
I think the ethical pressure is on, and what you see with like new founders and people who launching new companies, new products, that the market demands that you have like something like that built into your product or service from the very beginning. And what also I think is fueling this is, of course, that it's much easier to start and launch a new company with platforms like Instagram, YouTube, etc. So I mean, there's like, as you said, like the sustainable natives combined with the digital natives now really have huge power and a very strong, I mean, like the foot on the acceleration pedal to really boost the businesses instantly to a level where, you know, like people take notice, as you said. So, and I think this is then again putting pressure on all the incumbents and all the like the traditional players to readjust. So I mean, I love that idea. And maybe one thing we can also maybe talk about later is then the question, to what price is the consumer, you know, willing to pay then for these, you know, like green, ethical, sustainable products? And this question, I mean, I'm really curious to see how this will evolve over time.
Well, that's a great segue, because I was just going to get there, and specifically to ask, how does that willingness to pay change from generation to generation? Because we know, as was said earlier, it's really millennials and Gen Zs that pushed companies to get to here, to the sustainability piece. I'm a Gen Xer, but care very much about the environment. So it's something that's important to me as well. I'm not sure. I have to ask my parents whether they would pay a penny more. I don't know. So how do companies think about this?
Right. You know, I actually came across an interesting Forbes study on this topic where more than half of Gen Zs said, you know, they'll be willing to pay up to 10% more for a sustainable product. But that number keeps dropping as you go generation to generation, on where boomers is like maybe 20% said, I might even consider paying more for that. So I think there is definitely, you know, a generational aspect to it in terms of who are your customers. So I think that's something that brands do really need to take into account when they're building these sustainability practices. But I think there are ways that businesses can become more sustainable without actually having to, you know, raise the prices and costs. One example might be, like, this was one MIT study they did with a retailer in Mexico, where, you know, one way, of course, to reduce your footprint is, you know, combine your shipping into multiple packages rather than, you know, the way that Amazon has conditioned us on, like, okay, every day, you know, one next day. But yes, Amazon offers this incentive of, okay, give me $1 credit to something like that. But what this study found that was more interesting is when you kind of appeal to the innate goodness of people, kind of say, hey, you delay this by, you know, combine them, these, you will be saving 3 trees or 4 trees or 5 trees. A lot more people actually were willing, more than like 70% said, okay, fine, you know, I will wait. Right? So it doesn't necessarily have to translate only to increasing prices. You can look at when customers are doing this bracketing type of an approach where, oh, I'm not sure what size I'm going to be, so I'm going to get, like, you know, 2-3 different sizes and I'm going to return the other 2. Right? Using, you know, AI or something like that to prompt, in that case, say, hey, looks like, you know, you're trying to find your right size. Let me see if I can guide you. Right? So trying to maybe address it up front. Right? So there are ways that you could do where it's not just the price.
Yeah, and I also like what you were talking about, combining packages and things like that, because that is also a cost savings for the company. So it's a win-win-win, right? The customer benefits, the company benefits, the environment benefits, and so everybody's happy. So tell me then, Krupa, at least in the United States, and Sven, you can tell us if it's better or worse in Europe, why do we still see grocery stores, you know, giving me 27 plastic bags to when I check out, and why are there certain entire industries that seem to have not gotten the message at all?
I think, ultimately convenience trumps it, everything, right? So this is where there was, again, the desire versus reality comes in, where customers say that it's fine, you have outstanding sustainability credentials, you do everything right, but if you don't deliver to me right, or you don't meet my expectations, or you don't make it easy for me, I'm not going to shop with you. So for businesses and brands, I mean, US implemented bag fee, right? So you do pay extra for those bags, but again, you are willing to pay that extra money. I mean, in my own area, right, they implemented this complete ban. There was big backlash around it. Said, I can't remember to carry a bag every time, right? I think this is kind of where the individual freedoms versus regulations come into play. These behaviors cannot be regulated. I mean, with what we're seeing with the mask mandates and everything too, right? So I feel like it's the generational shift as more and more Gen Zs and millennials become the primary shopping segment, and this is how they grew up. The change will happen through innovations, private innovations, like industry innovations, like what Olive they launched recently, and they're already doing really well. I don't know if you know about what Olive does. They kind of it's a small startup. I think it was. What they do is you ship all their packages to them, and then they will recycle all the packages, but they will consolidate them and deliver it to you one day a week, right? So it's a mind shift, generational mind shift that has to happen, and I think as these generations become the shoppers, it will naturally evolve there.
Yeah, I think for Europe maybe it's more the regulation acted here pretty firm and fierce. So like plastic disposable cutlery is forbidden, no longer plastic bags in the supermarkets. So I think there is one area where the government or whatever authority has to act. And then there is the other area where we were talking about like how price sensitive are the customers. And I think in the end of the day, ethics always stop at your personal wallet and the disposable income. And what Krupa also described is that you have to reframe it. Like you said, like, okay, you get your 3 parcels at the end of the week in one shipment, save 3 trees. And the other one would be to take away the optics from the cost itself, to say maybe, okay, you're paying a little extra, but therefore you have access to this and this and this service, or for instance, like free content. If you have a garden outlet and people come to you to do in springtime to do the gardening, but throughout the year you'd stay in contact with these people to actually get them hooked and locked into your service area. So it's not only about the you give me your money, I give you the product relationship, I think, but it's also about building a real relationship with your customer. And therefore, this topic like sustainability, ethical components, etc., is just prone to really lure people into your service, because you can start a discussion. It's not only focused on products, and that's what I really love about this.
So we're running up on time here. We're almost finished with this conversation. I want to leave with both of you. I want to ask the same question. Krupa mentioned earlier about priorities, and we've got sustainability versus convenience, for example, and customers may make different decisions. I'm also wondering about the priorities across social issues. So we know that millennials, Gen Z, really care about the social stances that the companies they do business with are all about. Where does sustainability fit in with things, with the other social issues that are being discussed, and how do we prioritize that versus something else that customers might be demanding of us? Krupa, you want to start?
Sure. I mean, I would also say it is never a black and white type of a situation, but sustainability has costs involved in it. But from the other social aspects of it, I think it's really kind of the ethos of you as a business, what you stand for, what and to me it's important for businesses to be authentic about what they're trying to be, right? I mean, just because, let's say, you are seeing this revolution around a topic, you can't simply jump on the bandwagon if you are not really ready to do that. But I think the past year, if anything, it has actually brought a tectonic mind shift from consumers, businesses everywhere in terms of what's ethical, what you're standing for, and ultimately, I think it's good business practice when you stand for, when you stand against child labor or working conditions, proper working conditions, and all of those things, I think are important for companies to stand behind and generally re-examine where they are, re-examine where their priorities. And I think this is where I take the fashion industry, right? So if you look at what the priorities of a fashion industry are from a CEO agenda, something, right? So you have a supply chain, climate change, use of water resources. These are all the things that we're talking about on sustainability. But at the same time, on the other side, you have respectful work environment and better wage systems or circular fashion. I don't think they are mutually exclusive or different priorities. They all go hand in hand as the world evolves towards a most equitable and a more what should I say, ethical system. I think every business needs to think on which areas they want to stand behind.
Fair enough. Sven, your thoughts?
Thank you, Krupa. I'd like to add that it's not about talk, it's about how you act as a company, as a leader. So it's getting more difficult because I think like what's happening inside a company always finds a way outside. So you cannot fool people anymore, and it's about female empowerment, whatever. You can name any topic, and I think which is good news. So in that sense, how you do anything is how you do everything. It's such what I really like about these times, that everybody is trying to make a difference, and I think that's what this planet and also the humankind needs, that people in charge with the power, like companies like SAP or you name Ford or Mercedes or whatever, or Amazon, they have to be the change they want to see. So and everybody here is a son, a mother, a father, a friend. So we can do that together, I think, and I'm happy. So I'm really looking forward, even though the situation over the last 18 months was very difficult. But as you said, Krupa, I think it's also crisis is always a great change to reshape things.
Yeah, crises bring out the best in the humanity. I always say.
Absolutely. Well said, both of you. Thank you so much, Sven and Krupa, for being here and sharing your knowledge and insights. And to everybody listening or watching, sustainability is a key part of your business, whether you like it or not. And it also can be a profitable part of your business. It's going to draw different customers into your business. And there are ways to be both sustainable and profitable. So hopefully you've learned something in this episode. I know I have. Thank you so much for being here. And we will see you next time on Keeping Up with E-commerce from our friends at SAP Upscale Commerce.